All right, YouTube Axis and Allies brethren, welcome back to the number 2 turret in Wake Forest, North Carolina for this 42.2 version variant edition of Axis and Allies between No Limit as the Allies and myself, Captain Jack, as the Axis. This is Germany's third round turn, and for their purchases, they'll be buying or producing. Excuse me, I don't like the word buying. They're going to be producing 5 infantry and 5 artillery. They had 36 to spend, so that'll consume 35 of those, and they'll have 1 left over for the next round. All right, so for combat movement, we are going to set up. There's going to be a bombing run, of course. I love to do bombing runs. I know they sometimes don't pay off, but oh well. There's still 4 damage on the factory in London, so I hope to add to that. These 2 bombers from Germany are going to go into London, along with this this fighter from France. And No Limit has indicated both of his fighters are going to try to intercept. So there'll be a dogfight battle first, and then there will be a gunfire, and then hopefully, if there's any bombers left, some damage on that UK factory. All right, so for 2 other combat missions, we've got 7 fighters from the Ukraine. All 7 of these fighters are going to go to Karelia, and 2 tanks from Ukraine are going to go to Karelia. And they're going to take on a tank and a infantry division from Soviet Union. And last but not least, we're going to do a battle in the Caucasus. 7 infantry units are going to take off from the Ukraine, along with 5 tanks and 4 artillery, and go down in the Caucasus and take on this poor lost infantry division down here in the Caucasus. Yes, that's how he's going to end up by the time this round is over. So, anyway, let me get those set up here into the proper territories, and then we'll roll the dice. All right, so we've got these set up now. We've got the battle in Karelia, where we've got 7 fighters and 2 tanks that came from the Ukraine going there. And then the Caucasus, we have 7 infantry, 5 tanks, and 4 artillery that came from the Ukraine there. So there's 2 infantry left in the Ukraine. All right, so let's go ahead and get the bombing run done. So, for the attacking bomber that I'm sending, 1 black hit die. For the fighter that I'm sending, another black hit die for it. So, if they roll and if anybody hits here, it's an automatic elimination of one of his fighters, or both. And here's the roll. And there was a hit. So one of his fighters is automatically eliminated from the battle. So we'll take him off the board gladly. All right. So now his 1 fighter gets to hit back at a green hit die. That's a 2 hit die. So if it hits, it will take out my fighter escort. And it missed. All right, but we're not done yet. He gets to defend with, you know what? I should have rolled 3 1-hit die, because I had 2 bombers coming in there. So I'm going to roll that die separately. No, Livin, I hope you don't mind. I only rolled 2 for the fighter and 1 bomber. I should have rolled another one. And even though it looked like it was going to hit, it did not. So it didn't have anything to do with the battle. So for the AA guns, there'll be 2 of those firing at the 2 bombers. Well, there's not 2 AA guns. There's AA gun defense on the factory firing at the 2 bombers. So there's 2 1-hit black die in here. If anyone hits, the bomber's eliminated. And it did not, neither one hit. So both bombers have survived all of that. Boy, this has been a good roll so far, because The only thing that's been hit is the only thing that's been lost is a UK fighter interceptor. So we'll go to our dice bag. Should have had these ready, sorry. And we'll get out two D6 and see what kind of damage is done on that UK factory. And here we go. Oh my gosh. Holy cow. I have never done that before in my life. You can ask my son. My bombing raids never work. Never, ever, ever work. You can ask LT, who I used to do them on him all the time and used to get shot down half the time. But anyway, for some reason or other, I love bombing raids, and this is the first time it's ever worked to a T. Sorry, No Limit. I know that's going to make you pull your hair out, but or bang your head, and probably. But yeah, this is pretty inconceivable, as you would say. But anyway, so that's 12 damage on that UK factory, so that'll make a total of 16 damage. But I had to do something to try to stave off this UK production. As you can see, they're building up a pretty good fleet in the Atlantic, and I had to do something to try to stave them off. Although I'm not sure this may be too little, too late. But anyway, so that is for the bombing run. So next will be the battle in Karelia. We've got 7 fighters and 2 tanks going against 1 tank and 1 infantry division. So I don't have enough blue hit die for all that, so I've got 5 blue dice representing 5 of the fighters, and then there'll be 4 more red die, D6 red die, representing the other 2 fighters and the 2 tank divisions. They'll need to hit it 3 or less. Let's put those up really good in the cup here. Looking for 2 hits. And there's plenty of hits. Wow, all blue die hit. You can see that right there. All blue die hit, and actually 2 of the red hit. So the 2 Russian units are eliminated. They will get to fire back with a with a Russian 3-hit tank and an infantry 2-hit die. So we'll shake those up and see what kind of return fire. Hopefully not 2 hits. If it's 2 hits, I'm gonna cry. Here we go. And there were no hits. So no hits in Korea. So that one went well as possibly could go so far. So, all right. So we'll go back to the board and set up caucuses. This turn, we've got 7 infantry, 5 tanks, and 4 artillery going up against 1 lone Russian ground unit, or infantry unit, I should say. So I'm just going to roll for the 5 tanks to start with and see how that goes. So I've got 5 blue hit die in here. If they get 1 hit, I won't have to roll for the rest of it. And they got plenty of hits there. They got 3 of the 5 hits. So we won't roll the rest of that out. So the Russian infantry division gets to roll back at a 2-hit die. Let's see what happens. And no hits. Wow, great turn, great turn. So no casualties for the Germans in the Caucasus. So I'll be back to do non-combat movements. All right, so for non-combat movement, we have 1 infantry from the Ukraine going into Belarusia. We have 3 fighters. I'll need to chip those out. We got 3 fighters going into Belarusia. Or returning back to Belarusia. They have 2 movements left in their fuel gauge. So they'll land in Belarusia. 4 fighters will be going back to the Ukraine. So 4 fighters back to the Ukraine. All right. So, the 1 fighter that was the escort that headed to the UK will go back into France, and it will stay there. But everything but the bombers that's in Germany will go to the Baltic states. So the entire infantry unit, all the infantry units will go to the Baltic states. The 1 tank unit will go to the Baltic states. 1 artillery will go to the Baltic states. The 2 bombers will stay in Germany. Everything that's in France, except for the fighter that was in the bombing run, will go to Northwest Europe. So that's 2 artillery, 2 AA guns, 4 artillery, and 3 tanks will go, and I'm sorry, there's a lot more than that. 4 infantry. I think we got enough room. We need to blow up for the Baltic states. So from France came 3 tanks, 4 infantry, 4 artillery, and 2 AA guns. The fighter stays behind in France. From Italy, everything will move out of Italy. 2 AA guns will move into France. 6 infantry will move into France. 3 tanks will also move into France. 2 artillery will move into France. And let's see here, this 1 fighter will also go into France. So the only thing left in Italy will be 2 AA guns and its factory. So placing units, all the units will go down into Germany. Those are 5 infantry and 5 artillery will go down into Germany. So that does it for non-combat movement and placing the new units. Sorry if the camera was a little bit shaky there. Again, I apologize. I'm trying to hold a phone and move all this at the same time. So I believe that'll do it for this turn, just scanning the board. All right, so for unit recap, in France, there are 2 fighters, 2 AA guns, 3 tanks, 2 artillery, and 6 infantry. In Northwest Europe, there are 3 tanks, 4 infantry, 4 artillery, and 2 AA guns. In Germany, there's 2 bombers. There are 5 artillery and 5 infantry. In Italy, there's 2 AA guns. In Karelia, there are 2 tanks. Move that chip out of the way. In Baltic states, there are 5 infantry, 1 tank, and 1 artillery. In Belarusia, there's 3 fighters and 1 infantry. In the Ukraine, there's 4 fighters and 1 infantry. In the Caucasus, there are 7 infantry, 5 tanks, and 4 artillery. I believe that does it. Also for the IPC values, for the Karelia and the Caucasus, the Soviet Union lost 6 IPCs, so they went down from 26 to 20. Germany went from 34 to 40. So I believe that's where we set it this time. So that'll do it from turret number 2 in Wake Forest, North Carolina. Captain Jack, over and out.